move now to the Eastern Cape, and the owner of the eNCA Tavern has been arrested for contravention of the Liquor Act. 21 teens died at the venue on the 26th of June. Part of the charges that he's facing are selling or supplying alcohol to children under the age of 18. The owner is expected to appear in the East London Magistrates Court on the 19th of August. The Eastern Cape Premier spokesperson, Kuselwa Ranchi, joins me from Komani for more reaction to this. Good evening, and thank you so much for your time. What can you tell us about what happened with the arrest of the tavern owner? My understanding is that he's basically received a summons, is not in prison, but will appear in court in August.
Good evening to you, Sally, and to the listeners. Yes, the Premier has welcomed the arrest of the owner, saying that it is indeed the first step of making sure that there is accountability in terms of all that would have played some role in the incident that has led to the death of those 21 young people at the Snarpak Tavern 2 weeks ago. And as from what we have been briefed by the members of the South African Police Service this morning, yes, in terms they have been arrested in terms of contravening the act. You would understand that the Liquor Board had days after the incident opened a case against the owner, and it has led to this stage. And we can confirm that they have not necessarily been detained, but it is they've been given, the owner has been summoned to appear in court next week, Tuesday, where he will then plead his case in terms of the case that he is facing currently.
Of course, so this deals with the fact that young people were being given alcohol, underage children were being given alcohol at this venue, which is completely against the law. Against the more serious, obviously the bigger issue is the fact that 21 of these youngsters died. We still don't know exactly how they died. Has the Premier been given any update on the cause of death yet?
Sally, the Premier, like the rest of South Africa, is still awaiting the details in terms of the causes or what has led to the actual death of those 21 people. From the briefing that we got this morning from the staffs, the process of investigation is still underway. You would understand that at the mass funeral last week, we did hear from the doctors from the Department of Health who were telling us about the complexities that are involved in the process that they are undergoing currently. And we have, as the provincial government and the Premier himself has supported calls that we must give this process its room for it to be undertaken, so that when there is action that is being taken against anyone, we make sure that the South African Police Services have a tight case and someone does indeed account for what has happened and justice is served in this case.
Have you been given any indication when those toxicology reports will be completed? Originally, we were told that the families would find out at the time of burial. Well, sadly, those children are buried now, and we still don't know. So what sort of timeframes are you being given?
Sally, we have been told that this is a process that ordinarily takes anything up to about 18 months. However, we did receive a commitment from the Minister of Police as well as the top officials within the Department of Health that those two institutions will work together to make sure that the reports are received way before that, because you would understand that this is not an ordinary case. It is big, and we do need to make sure that the families do receive those reports and they start the process of finding closure in terms of what has happened. And as I've said before, also to make sure that there is accountability in terms of
Absolutely.
what occurred.
All right, so they're going to speed it up. It won't be as long as 18 months. Have they told you how long it might be?
Not at this stage, Sally. We are still awaiting confirmation of those timeframes.
All right. I want to talk to you about what's happening at taverns. everyone was there last week for the funeral. There was an outcry about how many taverns there are, how few sports ground and recreational facilities there are in poor areas. But I would imagine that apart from Enyobeni Tavern, a lot of those taverns are still operating. And I'm pretty sure it might be quite easy to find children in those taverns this evening. What are the police doing in that area, but also on a more general level in the Eastern Cape, to make sure that these taverns do not continue this practice?
Certainly, Sally, the incident in Sinar Park has opened our eyes as government, as society at large, to the dangers of underage drinking that we are facing as the community of South Africa. And there has been talks between all the stakeholders that are involved within the Buffalo City Metro, your liquor board, as well as the South African Police Service, to look at other ways and means that they can make sure that they increase or strengthen monitoring of what happens in those taverns. Remember that apart from the fact that they do not or they are not permitted to sell liquor to underage children or to children under the age of 18 years old, there are also other matters or other elements of making sure that they adhere to the licenses for selling liquor. So those are some of the things that would be happening. We are also in talks with also other stakeholders. You would understand that in the tourism industry, there would be a grading council that would be going around monitoring how those establishments are performing. And there's certainly talks to bring such a monitoring mechanism as well into the liquor sector to make sure that there are sting operations, there are unannounced monitoring sessions, and there is also, Sally, the review of the Act that we've spoken about, which will ensure that between all those that are relevant in giving licenses to these outlets, there is standardization in terms of the operation, so that you do not get a municipality that has its bylaws that would not necessarily be assisting the provisions of the Act. So there is that integration that is happening within government to make sure that we work together and we make sure that we monitor how these liquor outlets are operating going forward.
Yeah, and it's not just the issue of underage drinking. It is, of course, as we've seen here in Gauteng and also in Pietermaritzburg, the gun violence and the fact that a lot of these taverns don't seem able to keep out people who are armed. Thank you so much for chatting to us this evening. We do appreciate it. That was Eastern Cape Premier spokesperson Kuselwa Ranchi just talking to us about the fact that the Enyobeni Tavern owner has been summoned, will appear in court in August along with 2 employees.